Good evening, everybody. My name is Diane Burbank. Pleased to be your principal. If you are a freshman from the class of 2024, you are in the right spot. And if you need Spanish translation, you can check on the bottom of the Zoom screen and press for translation. Ms. Grimaldi.
Hi, I'll be translating tonight. Hola, buenas tardes. La directora Ms. Burbank ha dicho que bienvenidos hoy y si gustarían traducción en español, pueden hacerle clic en el botón que está abajo, van a mirar donde dice traducción o dice translation, van a mirar y lo va a decir todo en español.
All right, Ms. Mazzei, can you move Counselor Grimaldi to the translation?
Accomplished.
All right, thank you, everybody. Thanks for zooming in tonight. I know many of us have been on screen most of the day, as your freshman students have. So I welcome the opportunity to share some news with you and then help turn it over to the guidance team so that they can give you tips on registering and selecting courses for next school year. There is going to be a next school year, promise. From this same room in my home, I welcomed you as freshmen and told you what to expect at freshman orientation. And now, finally, after months, I've got some news to share about what to expect in the next couple of weeks. As our interim superintendent, Krista Leach, shared at last night's board meeting, there is going to be a return to on-campus learning on Monday, April 5th. Cue all the confetti and the noise. Oh, maybe that's just me. Okay, I'm very excited about it. What that will mean is you'll get some more communication from the district. We are in process with the teachers, and so I don't want to get too far ahead of the process and start talking and promising things that haven't been agreed to. As you know, I communicate each Friday, usually at around 3 o'clock, with the best news that I can gather for that week, and I will do the same tomorrow. If I'm able to share more beyond the start date, for certain I will. If I don't share it tomorrow, it's probably because I know things that I can't yet say, and I know that's frustrating as a parent and a student. But we got to follow process. So thanks for understanding that. There will be an opt-out for for a return to campus. And we will have another webinar like this for the entire school, where we'll explain what our our return to campus will look like, so that your family can make an informed decision well before April 5th. Remember that April 5th is a Monday, and it is the first Monday back from spring break. But I'm just really excited about that April 5th news, and I'll share more tomorrow. I'll share what I can tomorrow. Fair enough. Okay. So many of you, more than a year ago, were going on campus tours and prospective student open house. And you met Diane Mazzei and me likely, and I'm always in front of or in back of a podium sharing the Woodside Way. And I can't wait to get you and freshmen back on campus to be able to do that more effectively. But tonight we're talking about next year. So I'm going to turn it over to the other Diane, or is it Diane number 2? Nobody wants to be Diane number 1. Nobody wants to be Diane number 2. Okay. You guys have heard all those jokes. Yep. Eli, thank you. I'm glad you're here. You got your vaccine?
Yeah, just came from Levi's Stadium. So got out of Levi's at 6:30 and was able to rush here and able to make it in time. So
awesome. Well, glad you're here. I get my vaccine tomorrow. So folks, it is happening. Okay, enough about that. Let's turn it over to Diane Mazzei to share the good news, more good news.
Yes, thank you, Diane. And again, welcome everyone to tonight. Not only are we really excited to return to in-person learning and actually see kids on campus and teachers on campus. But we're really pleased to offer online registration, an opportunity to empower students to make their selections as they see fit throughout their 4 years of high school, because you'll be doing it in college. And so this is one of the bright spots of the pandemic, online registration. And it's a good time to sit around with your family and talk about the courses that you wish to take. Tonight is a presentation. The guidance department has been working extremely hard and long hours to bring this product to you. I know in your English classes, ninth graders, you saw this for the first time, and now you'll be able to teach your parents what you've been able to do. So with that, I want to acknowledge the guidance department and introduce to you the heartbeat of the department and the school, Mr. Francisco.
Thank you, Diane. I'm Francisco Negri. I'm the head guidance counselor here, but I'm also accompanied by a couple amazing counselors that I just want them to be able to, each student's assigned a counselor. Hopefully you've gotten to know who your counselor is, but if you haven't, you have an opportunity to meet a handful of them today. So let me go ahead and start. Mr. Cortez.
Good evening, Woodside High School community. My name is Mr. Cortez. I'm one of the counselors at Woodside High School.
Mr. Thornton.
Hi, how's everybody doing today? Mr. Thornton, I'm one of the guidance counselors at Woodside. I'm also the basketball coach. So if there's any freshmen out there, I'm trying to recruit some more freshmen to come out. But if there's anybody interested, you can also email me at ethornton@seq.org.
And then the amazing Jackie Grimaldi is translating for us right now. And so she got an opportunity to say hello earlier. So really, tonight is all about empowering you to be able to support your students in their selection for 10th grade classes. As Diane mentioned, due to the pandemic, we became created in really providing the opportunity for students to really do what they do best and utilize the resources they have available, go online and really follow the instructions and pick classes that they want, that they can take ownership in. And we met with all ninth grade classes prior to rolling this out to be able to make sure they had all the information that they needed to make the best decisions possible. And that's what we're going to share with you today. So our goals for tonight is really to understand the information that's out there so that you can support your students in selecting classes. The secondary goal is to actually show you how your students are selecting the classes. It's a great opportunity for parents to sit side by side with students and walk through the process so that you're completely aware of what your student's selecting. And also having the information to be able to say if that's a proper choice or not. And then lastly, understanding what parameters we have in changing selections if we change our mind. We really hope, as a guidance department, we're here to be able to support your students in their pathway through high school. We want to provide all the useful information, but in the end, we want your students to be able to make those, make the selections they want, to take ownership in their course of study, and for parents to be able to feel comfortable with that because they have all the relevant information needed to do so. So the first thing we started out when we met with ninth graders, and we talked about the difference between graduation and getting into college, getting into a four-year college directly from high school. Now, we actually have all the resources available to you in nice forms to be able to understand the differences in systems and everything like that. We provided that to your students. We're going to give you folks all access to it. We're going to make sure we share this slide deck as well as teach you where you can access all this information online. But really, it translates to what courses your students will select. And in the 10th grade year, students really, the selections they make for graduation really put them on par for college acceptance. It's not much of a difference in the freshman and the sophomore year. And so we're going to be looking to make sure that your students select English because 4 years of English are required. So as a parent, you know, when you're looking at your student selection, there better be an English class. Also a history class. Now, the nice thing about sophomore year is that there's not much variation to this. Whereas when we start to get to junior and senior year, there could be many more options. All students will be taking European history or an opportunity to take AP European history. You want to make sure your students are taking a math course. Now that varies from student to student depending on where they enter in. Again, we're going to share with you some resources later on tonight so you know where your student would fall in that trajectory or pathway. Science, and when we talk about the 4 core classes, English, history, math, and science, your students really need to be taking these courses all 4 years to be highly competitive for college. And really for high school graduation, English and history all 4 years, math and science, we highly recommend all 4 years. From there, it starts to get a little bit different dependent on your student and what they're interested in doing. Now, we put side by side graduation and college for the specific reason because I wanted you to see they mirror each other with the difference of the very end. Students are required to take PE, but students may vary in how they approach that. For graduation, world language is not required. That's actually an elective course. But for most students, we elect to take world language starting in the freshman or the sophomore year. And so ideally, we want students to make sure that they have that world language in there if they're aspiring for a 4-year college, all 4 years. If they're aspiring to go to a 4-year college right after high school. And then you can see where electives can fit into that. So this is really, again, a model of what your students should be looking at as far as what courses they're taking. Now, there's a couple things to note. Courses that are taken through our summer school program, whether it's for advancement or if it's to mitigate maybe a bad grade that we have, we will automatically make those changes. So whatever you're selecting now, say I'm a freshman and I'm taking algebra right now, and I want to take geometry to accelerate to algebra 2. Because you're taking it through us, once you complete the course, you won't have to make any changes. We will do that for you, and we will elicit your students what they hope for the following year through that summer program. If your students are taking community college classes, you have to communicate that information to us because the community colleges won't. So if that's the case, please reach out to your counselors to be able to make that happen. The other thing important to note is that students taking, when we looked at the schedule, PE was in there. And it varies from student to student, but really the rule of thumb is if your student is passionate about a sport, if they're playing it this year and going to play it for the remainder of the time in high school, then a student can elect to take a different elective and not PE because they're going to play that sport all 4 years. Now, what we do find is that students will choose to play a sport because they just don't want to do PE. And what they realize is that 3 hours after school every day is much harder than doing PE every other day. And so I highly, highly recommend as a parent, if you know your student is dribbling the ball constantly and you're telling them to take it outside and you know they're going to play sports all 4 years, then you could advise them not to do PE the following year. But if there's any question about it, PE should be in their course selection. I haven't met many seniors excited to be in PE in their senior year. And so getting it done within the first 2 years is really key for that success. I'm going to pause for a second. Mr. Cortez, are there any questions in the Q&A?
Yes, there's the question, is there a list of available summer school courses?
Great question. We are going to work on getting that out. We still haven't finalized summer school. I'm sure that Ms. Burbank will share once we have that all finalized, and we usually post it at the very front of our school website. Usually summer school is for remediation, but with the exception of a couple classes, we're hoping to really extend that out, understanding all the constraints of the pandemic. This brings me to a good point throughout tonight. If you have questions, please utilize the Q&A section at the bottom, and we're going to address them periodically to make sure that you're getting your questions answered in real time, as opposed to waiting at the end. So feel free to use that Q&A section. All right, now just understanding the timeline. As Ms. A mentioned, we met with all our ninth graders early this semester. From there, we gave students, ninth grade students, the first access to be able to select their classes. Now, it's not first come, first serve, but it did provide students an opportunity to really kind of interface with it ahead of time, with counselors being able to support them. Students will have all the way till the end of March 23rd, to be able to select courses. And then after that point, we're going to shut down the Infinite Campus portal, but students will still have an opportunity to change courses. So from February 12th to April 5th, we'll have Infinite Campus open to be able to make changes directly in, as we're showing you right now. After April 5th, it's kind of a big date, that April 5th, we're going to still allow students to do it, but it's going to be through a Google form. And this will allow us to really make all the changes that you're requesting, and you be able to see them in real time. Once we close April 5th, counselors are going to go through all your selections, confirm them, and then send an email out to families and students to be able to show the courses that you selected, that the counselors have confirmed they're meeting all the requirements necessary. And they will include summer school if your student needs to take summer school for remediation. After that point, we use the Google form, and that Google form will be open till April 23rd. So from April 12th to April 23rd, we'll be utilizing a Google form. And then at that point, so that's your second chance to really make changes. At that point, your student will then be able to make a final round of changes, but that'll have to go through you as parents in the online information update. So that online information update will be open from May 1st to May 22nd. As a parent of a freshman, you're going to be doing this each year to be able to confirm we have all your household information verified and correct. And at the very end, you're going to see your student's final schedule, and you're going to say, yes, this is what I wanted. I've talked to my students about it. I've reached out to their teachers. This is the appropriate pathway for my student. And you're going to confirm. And if there's any mistakes or any changes of mind or anything like that, you'll be able to enter in directly into the OIU so that we as counselors can make those adjustments for you prior to the school year starting. What you're going to learn is that as a school, we take big pride in making sure students get what they need. And we arrange our master schedule according to that. You probably heard us tout this before you decided to come to Woodside a million times. It's something we do because it's unusual for schools to build the classes. That sounds funny, to build classes around what students want. We are in the high 90s percentile of students getting their first choice of elective every year. And that's because of the way we approach this. It also means that we won't allow many changes at all when it comes to once the school year starts. So a student that there's an error in their schedule, we try to correct everything early on so that when your student starts day one, they're in the classes that they're going to be in for the remainder. Mr. Cortez, any other questions out there?
No questions.
Great. So I've kind of given you the overview. And what I'm going to have turn it over to Mr. Cortez to do is to show you exactly how your student would go in and select classes. And for some of you that have already done this, it's still going to be open to you to be able to do. So Mr. Cortez, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Negri. So before I start, I just want to let everyone know on the chat, I've included the link for the Infinite Campus for students to be able to get access to it if they need instructions or guardians need instructions on how to get into Infinite Campus. That's on the chat. The link is on the chat. So we're just going to highlight real quickly important things to look out for when we're doing the registration of classes or selection of classes, I should say. One of the things obviously is to go to the portal.seq.org using student ID to be able to log in using their password, clicking on more, and then course registration, which is the fourth option below. Next slide, Mr. Negri. So for this part, we want to make sure that we're clicking the right school year, 21-22 Woodside High School. You're going to see a progress bar, which is, as you can see in the slide. This progress bar lets you know if the students have completed registering for all classes. This is set up for a total of 7 classes. So if you're only selecting 6 classes, you'll see an unscheduled class added to make sure that it's showing completion of the progress bar. We are also posting the classes, which are core classes. This will also allow students and families to go in and make any changes. If you want to take an AS or AP class, you're able to do so. Next slide, Mr. Negri. So as I mentioned, we are pre-programming for core classes, which are your social studies, English, science, and math. Also, when you are going in through the slides are active, which means there's links that are active that you can actually click. So if you want a little bit more information on graduation and A through G requirements, you can do so by clicking straight from the slide link. I also posted the A through G graduation requirements from our Woodside website. It's also on the chat. Next slide, Mr. Negri. Requesting electives. So this is really important when selecting electives. We want to make sure that students get into their electives of choice, but also give them the option to choose their alternates. So in case they're not able to go into a certain elective, we have choices that we can place students as opposed to just going into a random elective class. So it's really important that when you're selecting an elective, you click on the blue sign where it says request, and that window will pop up where you're able to select electives. Next slide, Mr. Negri. And again, requesting electives, we want to make sure that students and families select their first choice and prioritize their first choice and then their second and third choices, so as alternates. Next slide, Mr. Negri.
I'm going to pause for a second. Mr.
Sure.
Thornton, are there any questions in the Q&A that we could answer?
In the Q&A, let me see if we have a few questions. So one question is, can a student take a sport class basically at community college to qualify for PE credit? And yes, that is, students can take PE classes. I have quite a few students that do yoga classes. I have students that even do like swimming classes or soccer classes and things like that. There's a wide range of community college classes that students can take. But yes, that answer that question, students can take community college classes that count as credit at Woodside. And the good thing is that all the classes are free if you're doing it through CSM, Skyline, or Kenyatta. And the students would just have to fill out a concurrent enrollment form. They can get that from us or their counselor. And we can help out with that and facilitate that. But yeah, students can take community college classes for PE credit.
And Francisco, we have a few questions about summer school dates, which I believe have yet to be posted.
Correct. Summer school will start traditionally the week after school finishes. So we're looking at the 14th of June. We have 2 sessions of summer school. They're 3 weeks long each. So the first session will end right before the 4th of July break. And then the second session will start right after the 4th of July break, and it will finish completely the 23rd of July. And those will be posted once we have more information about all the things that we're offering. But those, the district dates are should be on the website already. All right, let me go ahead and push forward, Mr. Cortez.
Yeah, and then one of the things I wanted to also mention, if you can just go back real briefly to the next slide, that I think it's really important for students and guardians to know. When you're adding a class, just so you know that it's been successfully been added, the plus sign has turned into an X, and that means the class has been successfully been added into the course selection. Okay, let's see. So yes, as I mentioned before, we want to make sure that students also select 2 alternate courses. That way we have, students have options if they're not able to get into their first choice of elective, then we have 2 alternates as backups. We can go next. And I think this is you, Mr. Negri. Back to you.
Thank you. At the end, you're going to see that status bar at the very top get to 100%. If your student only has 6 courses in there, then it will not go to 100%. But if your student only wants to take 6 courses, as Mr. Cortez said, you're going to add the unscheduled period. The goal is to get that to 100%. Our online registration is based on 7 classes. So if there were a circumstance that you were taking all 7 classes, you'd reach 100% with just those courses. So you don't need to add anything additional. But you always want to make sure you have alternates. Like I said, we do our very best to ensure that your students get their first choice. But in a circumstance where 2 classes are conflicting, we may have to go to the alternate to be able to accommodate your students' request. We're always going to err on the side of core classes, those English, history, math, and science, before we start doing electives. For 9th graders, students have to take at least 6 classes. The minimum is 6. If we're taking a 7th, as Mr. Cortez mentioned before, there's a list, an active list of courses you can take that are eligible as a 7th class. But we have to give every student an opportunity to take 6 before we can give students the opportunity to take 7. And therefore, that's why there's an approved list of classes you can take as a 7th class. Now, important to mention too, as Mr. Cortez said, we do pre-program classes ahead of time. Regardless of where your student is currently, all students were placed into grade level courses the following year. And students at Woodside select advanced level courses. We don't just assume or place. We want them to really take ownership, understand what they're entering into. And so students will select those advanced level classes. And so as Mr. Cortez said, you can delete the grade level course if you are looking to take an advanced level course, and add the advanced level course of your choosing. That status bar gets to 100%, you're good to go. You don't have to do anything else, and you're going to receive an email from counselors, as I mentioned, saying that we have really confirmed everything and your student is on track exactly where we want them to be, which is our philosophy is that our students are eligible to do anything and everything they want after high school. That means they're graduation eligible. That means they're college eligible. That means they're making decisions that they want, and hopefully that you agree with, but that they have every opportunity available to them. And so that's really how we're confirming. Ms. Burbank, you had a question. Oh, no, she's just high-fiving me for all that great information on the philosophy. All right, at the very end, as Mr. Cortez said, there is a link that we have as a guidance department to schedule meetings If there's a question you have, if it's a simple question, shoot us an email and we'll respond to you and give you the answers you need. But if it's really something that you want to have a dialogue about or are concerned about, feel free to set up appointments with us. We're also going to offer hours in the day for like office hours for your students to be able to access us for registration purposes. Now, you've learned about kind of the resources that are out there for you to make selections. You've learned about how to actually go in and pick classes. So we've knocked off 2 goals there. What I really want to show you now is where we house it all, because what we wanted to do is really make it as easy as possible for you. We wanted for you to go to one spot and find everything. And so as much as we could do that, we did that. So if you were to go to the Woodside webpage and you were to scroll down, so that's woodsidehs.org, and you were to scroll down, you're going to see a paw, because we do everything Wildcat style, orange paw. You're going to see that it says course registration for students that are currently at Woodside. You're going to click on that, and it's going to take you to a registration page. And it's going to detail all the information that we just shared with you. So you have this slide deck that we shared with you. You have all this information on the website. And really the bonus is you're going to see the actual slide decks in English and Spanish that you can click on and access yourself with all the active links. You're also going to find resources like the course catalog. That's a big, healthy book that we put together every year that gives descriptions on every single course we offer at Woodside, what you could expect in 7 sentences or less. And we also have the graduation requirements. I referenced that before, versus the A through G requirements. Those are the requirements to get into a 4-year college directly from high school. And that's California public colleges. So we're talking about UC, CSU. You pretty much qualify there. You can qualify across the board, out of state and private. We offer a list of our electives, as well as the videos detailing and showing actual students in classes. So our students made these. There's not every class, but the majority of classes are there. So take a look at that. We also offer the list of courses that you can take as a 7th class. You're going to see through our foundation and the work of our administration, we really probably offer the most classes in the district that you can take as a 7th class, because we want our students to really have the opportunity to take multiple things and to complete pathways and really find their interest areas. And lastly, again, as I mentioned, we have office hours. We're going to have office hours from March 22nd to March 26th. And then we're going to put a pause for spring break, even though we're all at home. We all need to take a step away from the screen for a second, and then we'll start back again April 5th to April 9th. You're going to find these on the website. They're linked to actually attend the office hours right there. You're also going to be able to communicate with us. Like I said, you'll find our email and be able to set up appointments if you feel them necessary. We are absolutely here to walk you through the process. We made sure that we touch base with your freshmen prior to sending them out on this, and we will really do our best to make sure that you guys have the support you need throughout this. With that being said, we wanted students to really just to get excited about the ownership of selecting courses, and hopefully this provides them that avenue to do so. We highly, highly recommend your students talk to their teachers, talk to other students, to be able to get an understanding of what to expect. And usually you hear from students, you hear from your teachers, you hear from your counselor, and you find a place right in the middle that's going to make it really comfortable for you to make those decisions. And so we ask that you do that.
We have a few questions. We have a bunch of questions before you close, okay? Science pathway, where can they find information on a science pathway? And then we have some questions about how to select AP, AS classes. How many should we take?
So let me start with the pathways. Science and math traditionally have pathways. Those pathways are posted on the website within their departments. I have already put a ticket in to make sure they're housed in our registration area. The only thing is our science pathway has changed just slightly. And so we're just updating that to get that in there, but it will be in there shortly. The math pathway should be in there by tomorrow. And so you should be able to find those there.
And what is a homework matrix, rigor matrix link, and why should someone go to it? It's in the chat.
Fantastic. I love that people are searching that out already. The rigor matrix, the rigor matrix it's actually something that we created a couple years back and update each year. And what it is we take feedback from teachers and from students to find out how much homework really a course entails, so that you can have an understanding from a grade level course to an advanced standing or AP class. What can I expect? And so that your student can put the pieces together. Okay, I'm taking 2 AS classes and 1 AP class, and I want to do soccer and ballet, and I'm going to hold a part-time job, and I'm going to take out the trash every night too, I promise. And when you realize that you add up all the time, you're going to find that that doesn't leave a whole lot of time in the day because of the hours that the commitments each thing you're selecting require. And so we wanted to give you an idea of what that looked like. And so that's how you'd utilize the rigor matrix. It is not 100% because each student processes things, reads things, and does work at different paces. So they're general. So if you have a student that works a little faster, the rigor matrix may not be 100% on what your student is. What I highly recommend doing is looking at the classes that you currently have and adjust your rigor matrix accordingly. So if you find out your current classes that you have about an hour and a half of homework a night and the rigor matrix is saying you have 2 hours of homework a night, then you can say, okay, you know what, it's going to be a little bit less as I'm predicting for the future.
And Mr. Negri, what's the difference between 7th class and an elective?
Great question. The 7th class is technically an elective. It's a additional course that you're picking because you're interested in a course or want to complete a pathway. So it's an additional course that you're selecting. It is an elective. Now, when we say a 7th class, we stress that it's an additional class beyond the 6 that you need to take. It does not mean it's a 7th period. It does not mean it's a specific period. It just means it's a 7th class that can fall within your schedule. But knowing that you have 7 classes ensures that you have 1st through 7th period. So just understand that as well.
There is another question that asks the difference between an AS and an AP class. I can answer that one. So AS stands for advanced standing, and then AP stands for advanced placement. Pretty much, it depends on which one it is, but most AS classes are kind of preparing students for an AP class. Like for instance, English. AS English is preparing students for like an AP English class. But the biggest difference between AS and AP is the weight. So AP classes are weighted, right? So if a student takes AP Modern European History next year, that class is weighted. What I mean by weighted is it gets a little bit of a grade bump, right? So a C counts as a B counts as an A, and an A gets a little bit of a grade bump. So it gets a 1-point bump. And that's how you can see some students get above a 4.0. So that's one of the bigger differences between an AS and an AP class. Another big difference with an AP class is that students, if they take the AP class and they also take the AP exam and they pass that with a 4 or 5, they actually can earn not only high school credit, but also college credit as well. So that's one of the bigger differences between an AS and an AP. And the only weighted AS class is AS chemistry. Everything else with the AS class, like AS English, is not weighted.
Mr. Cortez, any other questions out there?
None that I can see.
There's a question about where is the online information update, Ms. Mazzei?
I can go ahead and take that question. The online information update will happen in Infinite Campus through an Arena portal, but it's not live and it's not out till like the weekend before May 1st. And so you're going to get communication from the district office because everybody in the district, not just at Woodside, will do it. And so you'll get that communication out there once we get closer to it. We want to make sure that everything is updated to the current information we have before we execute it out so that parents aren't having to do stuff that they've already requested ahead of time. Well, I think we've reached the end of our questions. We really, really appreciate you folks joining us. We hope and are excited to be able to interact with your students on campus shortly. Really, if there's anything that you have, any questions, anything, reach out to us as counselors. We're here to be able to help you and guide you. And we're excited to get to know you folks really in the future as we're all back on campus. So thank you for the night. Thank you, counselors, for being with me so late, and our administration for being with us so late and being able to provide this for you. And we look forward to more opportunities in the future to share things with you.
Okay, you guys, on 3, we're doing Go Wildcats. 1, 2, 3.
Go Wildcats!
Bye-bye.